Good morning. So we're gonna continue our in-depth study of the person that had leprosy, and then later the person that was paralytic. But one thing I really want to focus on, because today we're looking at Luke 5:12 to 26. But in Luke 14 is a puzzling verse that might be intriguing for a lot of you of what it says. This is Luke 14. It says, "And he charged him to tell no one, but go and show yourself to the priest and make an offering for your cleansing as a testimony to them, just as Moses commanded." Jesus told the paralytic, I'm sorry, Jesus told the man that had leprosy, that was healed from his leprosy, not to tell anybody. And that is something puzzling that we see. We know that Jesus wants to spread the gospel. We know that Jesus wants to tell everybody about the kingdom of God and give examples of God's mercy and his healing and his preaching. And when it came to healing the man that had leprosy, the first healing that he did about this sickness that people thought was so bad that God must really be angry with them. I would think he would like to make sure everybody's aware that even that sickness is not far from God's blessing, even with their thought of it being a sickness of sin. But he said he charged him to tell no one. Why is that? For two reasons. One of them is he was afraid that if the priest found out that Jesus was the one that was healing him, obviously they'll probably be in disbelief and not want to grant him a fair judgment. Because the way it's supposed to be is that if you had a sickness such as leprosy, a huge sickness that you needed to be isolated, if you are healed, you go before the priest in the temple, and he says you are healed. He confirms your restoration, and he allows you to be with society once more, to be able to go back to your family, to your friends, to your loved ones. So he did not want the priest to have an excuse not to grant this man that has been restored both in spirit and in body, to his family, to his friends. The second is, and what I want to focus a little bit more on, is the fact that Jesus, he still wanted to reach the religious leaders, the priests, the teachers of the law. He still wanted to reach the Pharisees and Sadducees. And he was hoping that there wasn't anything that he was able to bring down the barrier. Hence, he said, don't tell anybody. Don't tell it was me, because later, obviously, everybody was going to find out. But go first to the priest. Present yourself to the priest. He was acknowledging the authority that the priest had, even at that time, even after Jesus had done something. And he was also acknowledging, as it says here, as a testimony to them, just as Moses commanded. He was reestablishing his belief upon the laws of Moses. Because obviously the argument that the priests had was that Jesus was teaching something contrary to that Moses taught, that the laws of Moses demanded. Obviously, the difference was in the interpretation. But here Jesus wanted to establish that I also agree with you guys. Let's come and reason together. But unfortunately, this man, in his excitement, he just told the whole world, and to a point that Jesus, as we read the other Gospels, Jesus' ministry ended up hindering as well. He wasn't able to freely go into cities and continue preaching the gospel, but he had to be in the wilderness, in the deserted areas, and even then, a lot of multitude follow him. But his ministry to the cities came to a sudden stop, because of the multitude that came was always too great. And second, this was one of the main things that the priest, one of the big stepping stones that the priest used in solidifying their judgment with God, their judgment with Jesus. From this point on, they were sure that their goal was to kill Jesus in some way, shape, or form, to capture him and to just destroy him. So sometimes we might see from our personal viewpoint, and at least the way I'm looking at it is that there's times in our lives that we might feel God calling us to do something that might puzzle us, that we think is contrary to what we know of God, but we must just have faith that He knows what's best. In this case, we understand that the man that was paralytic, that had leprosy, was so excited to go back to his family, but it would have been a huge blessing for society and even for the religious leaders if he would have done and obeyed the commandments of God.